Well, hi, I am Nick Ribera of Chain Assembly, and if you're listening to this on the podcast, then you probably already know that. But I am here at the amazing Calypso Isles, which is a fantastic shop here in Lakeland, Florida. I was very excited to see this new space. It's got an amazing presence with some incredible art, beautiful metaphysical tarot crystal shop. I don't know, how would you guys describe yourselves?
I would definitely call us an eclectic space for all your metaphysical and spiritual needs.
All right, an eclectic space for all your metaphysical and spiritual needs. That from Jonathan and the wonderful Shanice, who are both the proprietors of this space. And they were lucky enough to have me I was lucky enough to have them. I was lucky enough to have them invite me and Bianca Craig, the beautiful Obsidian Corona, who is helping me work on my latest tarot deck, Tarocchi Gialli. So, Bianca, thank you so much for joining me.
Yo, I've been saying it wrong the entire time. I've been saying Tarocchi.
It took me a while to get used to not doing two R's and doing two C's, because it's not how it would be.
It's hilarious because my first name's Italian, too, on top of that.
There you go.
I inherently should know better. But yes, it's wonderful to be here. I've been to the space before, and they've gotten like so many cool goodies since I've been back. And it's so wonderful to be here in the shop with Nick.
Well, I thought it would be great of us to just have a chat, because I wouldn't call myself a tarot expert at all, but I have definitely learned the ins and outs of publishing tarot decks. I always approach them as like an art project, a publishing project. And I always try to defer to the experts to help me with the things that I don't feel the most confident about, such as writing the manual. So do you want to tell me a bit about what it's been like interpreting my interpretations of the Rider Waite illustrations?
Okay, so so a lot of people who are into like the philosophy of tarot refer to particularly the major arcana as the Fool's Journey, and this has been the Fool's Journey for me, for real, because I have never written a tarot manual. I've like explained people like the meanings in real time, but not just interpreting the cards, but specifically interpreting an interpretation of the cards with a specific aesthetic has been a very, very, very interesting journey. Feedback was greatly appreciated, because there was a lot of overthinking on my part personally, a lot of pressure, because I haven't collaborated with someone in this way before. So when Nick DM'd me and was like, "Hey, would you be interested in like writing the guidebook?" I was like, "Yes." I think specifically in all caps. So I was like, oh my god, yay.
Well, like, I truth be told, I had never seen any of your writing, but I know you as a person totally fit with the aesthetic I was going for with the project.
Yeah.
And so for anyone listening, the theme of this tarot deck, Tarocchi Gialli, is inspired by Giallo films, which is the subset of Italian horror, B-movie, gothic romance films from Italy from the 60s and 70s. And they always have very overly dramatic movie posters. So I just wanted to make a tarot deck where each card looked like a movie poster from a forgotten Italian film. And I really thought, I mean, not saying that's your aesthetic, but you're goth, I'm goth. I'm not as much anymore since my wife put color in my wardrobe.
Boo.
But like, there you go. So like, I really liked the idea of working with someone who regularly does readings to kind of, I don't want to say make it more practical, but what you came up with and what you've been writing is so much better than I expected.
Yeah.
Because like I always start every project with a mood. Like, what is the mood I'm trying to advance with this project? Mm-hmm. And I really appreciate that you're focusing more on mood than focusing on like, this is what the card means. Because anyone who's getting this deck probably already has 5 or 6 other decks.
Yeah, this
They
is
might
not
already,
this is not a deck for newbies.
No, and they might already know what a card means.
Mm-hmm.
So I really appreciate you putting the emotion and drama and setting a scene for each card.
Yeah, especially since, like you said, they are inspired by movie posters. So I wanted to, establish a scene, like really think like, okay, what would be happening in a film that in this particular film, this particular period of time, like these, if there are characters on the cards, how they'd be engaging, how you would engage with them and things like that. Particularly because the cards themselves, what was difficult for me in particular was that this deck is very far removed from a lot of the decks that I've worked with personally, in that they're not what a lot of readers would call Rider Waite Smith or Rider Waite clones. So the aesthetics, the suits, are not as clearly translated.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, knives or swords, and just the names, sure, but the imagery, the translation isn't as direct. So that was a little bit tricky for me, particularly with the minor arcana. But again, with feedback, it really helped me to just push through and just focus on encapsulating the mood and just going with, okay, developing a story here.
And I think that kind of comes back to what I was saying about how, I guess with Rider Waite Tarot, you've got 2 types of decks. There's the one that you go to because you want it to tell you something, and then there's the one you go to because you want to feel something.
Period.
Yeah, and this is definitely the latter type, while the other ones I've done have been more of the former. But I do want to compare it to the Tarot by the Neon Light I made, which was tough for me because looking at, say, for example, the moon, you read my number one source of research for all of these is always the Biddy Tarot website.
That's how I started back in the day.
And the descriptions where it's the mountain over her left shoulder means this, and notice the sun is at 2 o'clock, it means that. Mm-hmm. So with Tarot by the Neon Light, I needed to distill every single card to just one single image.
Yeah.
And I'm okay, what are the things I can get rid of, and what can I focus on for this card? And a lot of times I end up coming up with something that is true to the meaning of the card, but looks nothing like the original illustration.
Yes, I have and have worked with the deck, so I can attest to that for sure. Out of all the decks that I own, I have some decks that are that would be considered clones, I guess, in terms of the meaning and iconography, but this is the one that has the most elements that are specifically from the Rider Waite Smith deck, but there are, especially with the minors, there's a lot more freedom, a lot more of his personality and interpretation there, and I really enjoy it and have used it for ritual sense in some cases. I've used it for myself mostly.
Okay,
not for the public.
Well, tell me a bit about what it's like being a reader.
Oh gosh, it's such an open-ended question, but I guess that's the point.
That is very open-ended
for interviews.
I'll get more specific as you start talking.
Okay. What is it like? It's been very impactful for me as well as for my clients. It's encouraged me to seek more knowledge, to just continue to always keep asking questions, because tarot is a tool. It is a language, a medium, a language that helps to add context to things that you are experiencing or want to experience, things that you are looking for. So just working with tarot has encouraged me to continue to seek answers and for myself, answers and resources for myself as well as other clients, so that I can better be of service to them.
So how do you go about deciding which deck to use for a given client?
Well, it really depends on the tone of the deck as well as the event. Like, for example, because of a certain card, we were discussing this earlier, because of a certain card in the Tarot by the Neon Light, I cannot use that as family friendly.
It's the most abstract illustration of a vagina. It's just a handful of strokes.
A handful of...
That sounded dirtier than
God, I miss my boyfriend. Anyway, yeah, I can't use that deck in certain child-friendly spaces, given a certain just one specific card on there. But I really, really enjoy it. What was the question again? I got distracted.
Well, actually, when I was creating that one, I did have a topless woman on the moon card, I think it was. And then people on the Kickstarter forums thought that it was too distracting, and they're like, "You shouldn't have a nude woman here." And I'm like, "But she's got a jug of water, so it was supposed to be like a double entendre. She had 2 jugs." And then they had me get rid of that. And I'm like, all right. Fine,
but I mean, like the star though, she's like the star is literally a naked woman. Like in traditional Rider Waite deck, the world is traditionally a nude person. There have been like talks about whether or not they're like an intersex person, because if you look at the illustration, there's like like a bit of cloth that like goes that covers the lower bit. So I've read like bits and pieces of like tarot literature, and like there's like talks about the person being intersex, or probably like because the books are old, like would refer to them as like hermaphrodite, but that is not the word that we use now. But his version of the world is very there's no covering. Just get the deck, you'll love it. You'll love it. You'll love all of the cards, I promise.
So I was asking you about picking a deck for a given client.
Oh, yes. Okay. So, for me, I usually have like 1 or 2 tarot decks that I work with at a time. I recently retired and like gifted one of my tarot decks that I've been reading with since like I started reading tarot professionally. I gifted it to another like new reader. But it's really about the conversation that is had. So back when I was learning to read on like Tumblr, Witchblr spaces before Witch Talk. I mean, like I could go on so many rants about Witch Talk, but this is not the space for that.
Everyone I know has ended up on Witch Talk in their algorithm at some point.
Yeah, whether or not they practice, but like the thing with Witch Talk is like a lot of like the beginnings of Witch Talk were just like stuff that was like regurgitated from Witchblr without the primary sources. The thing that I loved and missed about Tumblr back in the day was because like there were like hyperlinks either to other pages or like directly to this. It was like so much easier to cite sources when researching about your craft, whether it is witchcraft or divination, because many people who do practice divination, like tarot reading and stuff like that, some of them they do practice magic, witchcraft, various spiritual practices. Some of them they don't. They just enjoy reading, but it really just depends on how the deck speaks to me, whether or not the illustrations are relatively easy to parse and follow for a beginner, because there may be a lot of like really, really esoteric stuff featured on a deck, like say I'm trying to remember the name of it. I think it's like the Hermetic Tarot or something like that. It was like black and white, and it has like a lot of like Kabbalistic symbolism all over it. So while it is good for introspection, if you tend to like practice with it and like deepen your spiritual practice, there are some decks that like people are not going to really appreciate. Because like I do a lot of events at markets where like I vend and stuff like that. I don't have a physical store space, So that's where I wind up having most of my clients. So a lot of people, they're just taking a literal passing fancy in tarot and in divination. So there's a direct TV or Spectre, whatever band is like booping. I don't know if they'll pick up, but hopefully not. But yeah, part of it is just like how if people who don't give a shit about magic are going, can I cuss?
Yeah.
Shit. People are going to really give a shit about magic, about spirituality, if they're going to really make use of the messages that are being displayed on the cards themselves. Because sometimes, like, I just want to, like, give them, like, all of the facts, because, like, this is really helpful, but then just, like, I know they're not going to do anything with it.
So a large part of it then is you, I guess, you kind of have to judge your client's involvement in the process.
Yeah, because it is about involvement. It is a mutual exchange, which a lot of people, like, I've worked with the hotlines, oh no, get 3 minutes free. Like, I've been Miss Cleo, for real. Minus the scamming, I don't scam people. It's the hotlines that do that. Support your local independent readers, okay? Like, they underpay them. Thank you. But yeah, I've been on hotlines. There's just a couple of them I'm still on. If you find me in the wild, but a lot of people, they just want to pay, like 30 cents a minute and just, tell me if he likes me, yes or no. Like, they don't really care. They just want, their gumball machine fortune cookie moment, really.
So how much of the process of reading for a client, and would you call them clients, or is
I call them clients. Yeah.
Okay. How much of the process of reading for the client is, well, I guess you mentioned that you do it at events.
Mm-hmm.
How much, or I guess maybe a better question would be, what do you do to set the scene before the event? What kind of intentionality do you bring into it? How do you try and prep them if they are new to the whole process?
Well, usually I have a couple different decks available. So I have tarot and oracle decks. I give them, like, I ask them if they're familiar with them. If not, I give them a brief description about, like, the difference between them. Tarot, I'll talk about the major and minor arcana. Give a little blurb, like, the difference between them, how the minor arcana is similar to playing cards in terms of, like, the breakdown of the basic 10 and stuff. And how, like, I usually describe oracles as being different to tarot, as, like, tarot is kind of like a good coverall for any sort of question, whereas oracle is more specified in its artwork, its subject matter, or both. So, because a lot of times, again, people find me out in the wild at these events, so I'll be like their first tarot reading ever. I'm just like, yay! And sometimes having those options will help them develop a question, because they, like, want to have the experience, but they don't have the question in mind. They're like, oh my god, I don't know. So I'll just be like, hey, like, we can just do a general reading and then just, like, build off the spread from there. Or we can pull from a specific deck and just, like, see what comes up, and then, like, dive a little bit deeper if there may be, like, reoccurring themes in the cards that I initially pulled for them.
Do you have a spread that you always start off with?
Well, when I first started reading cards in general, I started reading Spanish playing cards, and I would do past, present, future spreads, like a 9-card spread. So, and even my first tarot deck that, again, I recently passed on to a new friend, a new reader, was the Angel Tarot, the infamous Angel Tarot. Oh, Doreen Virtue. That's like, it's with that deck, it's kind of like Oracle style because it's very square. So I generally would kind of like do a 9-card spread and just like build off it from there, because it's like kind of an easy to follow grid, so you can more clearly track the relationship between some of the figures in the cards, or because it's just a nice square. It's just like easier to parse out, I think, than say the Celtic cross, which is I'm terribly out of practice with the Celtic cross myself.
So I know, like, when it comes to putting together the spreads that I put in the manuals, I have I always reprint the ones that I created up for the previous times, and then I come up with one or two new ones. Or like with this current manual, I asked you if you wanted to, kind of publish one of your spreads in there. And I think it's been a fun process of just trying to come up with a two-dimensional visualization of what type of storyline you want the cards to tell. So do you create any of your own spreads, or have you just been finding the ones that work best for you and try to stick with those?
I've been finding the ones that work best for me because that's how I learned tarot. Again, going back to Tumblr, Witchblr, because a lot of people ask oh my gosh, how do you learn? You've been doing this I've been reading for about 13 years now. So how I started, what helped me contextualize the cards is using the spreads. Because I was able to develop associations based on the questions that are associated with square 1, square 2, square 3, for a 3-card spread, and square 1 would represent whatever question or subject matter, and then whatever card is placed there, and if it's upright or reversed or upside down for those of you who are new to tarot, join the fun, please. But that would kind of inform what the message, what the response to the question in the spread is. So then I would, journal and write down the spreads. I would record my sources. I'd be date, Tumblr, the username and everything. Even when I was just handwriting these things, so I had a notebook full of spreads that I've used, and the decks that I've used. And, when I use them, what the context of the situation was. So, what was the question? Jesus Christ.
Do you ever create any of your own spreads?
No, I haven't yet. I haven't yet because there's just so many great ones out there. Again, going back to the Neon Tarot, the Desire spread, that was the one that I interviewed the Neon Tarot with, and they called me out. They knew the cards knew what was up. I'm just gonna leave it at that. But I haven't yet. I've thought about it, but usually I just do a basic 3-card and then go from there. Sometimes the placements have a specific meaning, but I try not to overcomplicate it too much because I feel when I overcomplicate readings for myself, then I wind up having to pull more cards and it just winds up being a mess. So I usually just go with basic 3-card, see how they go together if they don't, and see why it does not make sense, and maybe just reformulate the question.
So I know when it comes to spreads, with the first tarot deck I did, which was my first printing of Eros Tarot, the manual was just a flyer with adjectives for each card. And so there was no spreads in that. But the second project I did was the Goracle, my gory oracle deck.
Gory indeed.
Yeah.
Warning.
Yeah. And so with that one, that was the first time I did spreads because I wanted the manual to be very big. I had a game I put in there. I had upright and inverted definitions for each card. And then I wanted to have a robust section on spreads because as part of that project, I also had, I was just talking about them, altar cloths, but I did them as a thick, almost like mouse pad, and I had grids drawn on the graphic of that printed material. So I wanted to make sure I had spreads that utilized that same grid.
Oh, I love the self-portrait that you did in that deck.
Oh, the blinding?
Yeah.
My wife did not like that.
I read into the description. I was Jesus. Yeah. Oh, God.
So the way I was coming up with those spreads was I just got, I looked up photos of people doing yoga poses that I liked, and then I drew that as a silhouette, and then I drew cards over the different regions of where the, Akashic areas are, and then just kind of translated that into a spread. Left hand, right hand would represent dual choices. The mental decision would be over the head, the emotional decision would be over the heart. So I did things like that, and it was fun using that as like a guide on like how to, and like I didn't know what typical spreads were out there, so I was just kind of making them up.
But I definitely think that spreads are incredibly useful and beneficial. Like a lot of readers will say to like throw away the guidebook, to throw away the little white book. Please don't throw away mine, please, thank you.
Still a lot of work into that.
Please. So much anxiety, please no. But also, yeah, like thankfully Nick has come up with some really good, really simple, useful spreads in his books. And for anyone who is wanting to learn tarot, spreads are a great way to start. I've been saying this from the jump. Whenever anyone wants to know, like, how did you learn? Practicing with spreads, because that helped me remember what those cards meant, how they played out. Even if I didn't remember the meanings at the time, like how people will develop signifiers or significators, and like people use variations of the word signifier or significator, sometimes of a specific person. So there may be a traditional meaning for a card in a tarot deck, but sometimes the more that you work with a deck or with a version of a tarot deck, it will, be an indicator of an issue or potentially a good thing. Like for example, in one of my tarot decks that I have, whenever I read love readings, whenever the magician would come up, it would be an indicator of someone who is potentially manipulative, but not in a conscious way, not like they're like plotting on you, but that's just how they navigate the world, and they may be open to change if they are called out on it, that they're like a manipulative person. Because if you think about the magician, they manipulate all the elements. They take mastery and control of all the elements. They are overseeing a situation, but they're also a more mature version of the hermit. Like the hermit is more so about like they're older. They're like Gandalf, Dumbledore kind of wizard, and like literally like a hooded, bearded guy with a lantern going off into a cave to learn about himself and figure himself out. So he's doing the work. Compared to the magician, where he's just like, playing around and seeing what's up with you. I'm playing around with you. I'm sorry, I do too many love readings. Far too many love readings. You magician too many times, and it makes me very upset.
Well, I like that you brought up the magician, because with this the new tarot deck, the Tarocchi Gialli, I have a very old, she would know it. She would be fine with me calling her that. She just turned 80. Italian neighbor who helped me with some of the translations. And I was first coming up with the titles based on a website I found that has an antique Italian tarot deck. So I was getting the names of the majors from there. And then when I presented them to her, she's like, why is the magician il bagato? And she said it should be il mago. But bagato, she was explaining, is someone who is like a barterer. They trade things with people. They don't buy stuff or sell stuff. They just do trades. And I'm like, oh, that makes so much more sense thematically. So it seems like with what the card means, a trader makes more sense than a magician. I just thought that was interesting. So I was like, well, the Rider Waite was based on Italian playing cards, right? So it just seems like a weird translation then of it.
Yeah, and you have to keep in mind that there's like a lot of association with the Golden Dawn, which appropriated so many different spiritualities to make its own thing, which also, I don't want to start any witch wars. I don't want to, because just if y'all want any more information on that, hit up Angela's Symposium, Dr. Angela Puka and Dr. Justin Sledge of Esoterica, and they can provide you resources on that. I don't want any trouble. I don't want those problems.
So how do you compare the differences in what you see when you're reading for somebody you're familiar with versus somebody you've just met?
Here's the thing, I don't often see differences. Now I don't see differences. Before I used to, but now not so much, because I kind of approach reading people with the same way. When I first started, I would read for friends, and I would be like more afraid of like things coming off poorly or things coming off badly. But like at this point, I read professionally. This is my profession, so my friends come to me now looking for that professional spiritual divinatory insight. So I read the same way. The messages come through the same way. Sometimes they're real direct. Like if I have like one that like jumps out or falls out. Like there was a market that I was reading at, and speaking of trading, like we were trading goods, and I pulled some cards for her about this guy that she had met on Tumblr. Jesus Christ, I miss Tumblr. Darn you, Foster Sesta ruining Tumblr. Tinder, yeah, one of them T apps. But anyway, she was like meeting this guy, and then like a card popped out, and I was like, well, he's a fuck boy. Sorry, she's like, no, and yeah, and she wound up finding out that he wasn't able to get his like child babysat. Like there were just like all sorts of drama. So like it just like was not worth it.
Well, shout out to Tinder. That's how I met my wife.
Same. Well, I mean, like not the spouse part yet.
Yeah.
Minor tie-in. I am an ordained minister, so those of you who are in Florida, hit me up. I can marry you.
So, like, well, the reason I was asking about reading for someone you know versus someone you don't know, do you ever find the urge or fight the urge to be like, oh, this card's talking about Juan, your boyfriend or whatever? Or, like, do you try not to lead them, try not to put more into it than, like...
What's really funny is that I will just describe the cards, like, and how they're interacting with each other, and then they'll be like, that is so and so. Like, so I don't even get to do that. There's like, oh my god, I know it. Like, this is like confirming it, and then like I might like pull some more cards, and it just like laying out the situation. And they're like, this is exactly like I know exactly what this is talking about. Blah, blah, blah. Like I don't really have to. There's not really a moment of me like, oh, this is about this person. They'll just be like, oh shit, this is exactly what's going on. Or like, oh, I know that I need to let this go. I know I need to, like, it'll be like, yeah, you kind of need to stop it. Just let it go.
So like, I could say for me with the readings I've received, I never felt that they were like predicting anything mystical, but they did always get me thinking about things that I wouldn't be thinking about otherwise.
Yeah.
And so like just the fact that it calls out super specific stuff just felt like that was the power in the cards to me.
Yes, the heart of the cards.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
well, like, Yu-Gi-Oh reference there.
I love me some Yu-Gi-Oh. I still have my dual disc. I still have the classic OG dual disc. Yeah, that's kind of like how I explain like the difference between the major and minor arcana. Like the major arcana is more so about the broad like swaths of energy, just like general archetypes of like kinds of people, whereas like the minor arcana is more so like the nitty gritty details. So that's where like the fine tune, like little like, okay, this usually is an indicator of insert thing here. Like, I'm more into like African spiritual traditions, right? And a lot of people, they associate like a lot of the African-based traditions throughout the diaspora with like black magic and evil stuff because sacrifices happen, blah blah blah. But and like curses because of Hollywood propaganda, right? But the thing with a lot of the different traditions is that you would divine or get divination done from an elder before you do work, especially like if you're doing work on someone or on behalf of someone, you divine or get that divination done beforehand. So I just lost my train of thought. Again, I'm sorry. Like, I tried skateboarding, and then I had like bonked the back of my head. So like, ever since then. Like we were talking about like the predicting and like just giving fine details. There we go.
There you go.
There it is. Just
I forgot.
Gotta snatch it out of the air. So yeah, just like with the divining, it can like give you those like fine details about like whether or not an insert thing is like is meant to be done by you or on your behalf or for your behalf. It will like give that fine tuned clarification on like whether or not a thing should be done, or if a thing is being done to you. Because a lot of people sometimes will ask, "Oh, is there a curse on you?" I'm just like, "Bitch, like what are you doing? Like what are you doing that makes you think that someone would want to curse you? Like what are you like doing out? What are you running around here doing in the streets that would make someone want to curse you?"
I like that you brought up the fine details, because again, I'm not a reader, but as someone who's creating them, I always felt like there's a lot of redundancy in the minor arcana of Rider Waite, particularly with the pentacles.
Oh, yeah.
There's like right in the middle, it's like this represents success after hard work. This represents success after hard work with your colleagues.
Yeah.
This represents success after hard work with your family.
Yes.
And maybe it's, again, because I'm not reading it, so I'm not focusing on like where the differences are.
But speaking of pentacles, I'm so sad that like I don't see pentacles happening as much in my readings for people. I always get so excited for others.
It's in a recession. That'd be funny.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, I always get so excited and like relieved. Like I just breathe a sigh of relief whenever I see pentacles for people. I'm just like, hey, you deserve this. Oh my god.
But I feel like the swords are so dramatic.
Oh my god.
They're every one is like this is this one specific thing.
Yeah.
But pentacles always just feel so nebulous to me for the most part.
I feel like pentacles are good whenever people are looking for reassurance about career or about whether or not they're on the right path.
Right.
Because like if I see like a bunch of say like upright pentacle cards, whether they're major arcana or minor arcana, I'm just like, oh thank God. Because like that's, you know, further clarification, especially if say it's like a bunch of pentacle cards and like some cup cards, like positive cup cards, of course. And it's just like, okay, like their heart and their actions are aligned. Or like pentacles and wands. They're making those moves, because a lot of times people like they're putting in a lot of work, but they're not seeing the progress. So like if there is like pentacles and wands, then it's like, okay, like the work, and then it's showing that they are actively making progress, or that the actions that they're taking, or that like people, depending on the context, like people's supportive actions are like helping to amplify their success. Again, context.
Yeah.
If you want context on spreads for you, book a reading with me.
I would say too, like in the process of developing the first Oracle deck I made, the Goracle, I started off by initially transcribing the majors, because I'm like, the majors are dramatic, they're easy to understand.
Yeah.
And then as I was going through it, I'm like, even these can be a little too similar in instances.
Yeah.
So I started, like, I mean, I did maybe 2 or 3 interpretations of the majors. Like the hung is someone being hung, inspired by that moment.
The hangman.
Yeah, sorry, the hang is inspired by the hangman.
Yeah.
And then, because like the theme of it was gore, I was like, okay, maybe I should have cards that represent different methods of death, and then convert that into a meaning. Like being burned on fire means that whatever card this is adjacent to has an increased effect, and like we're really trying to lay it down when this comes up. Like this is really what this means.
Basically, anyone who's a fan of the Jigsaw and Saw franchise, you would love this deck. You could probably stomach it. I barely can. But I appreciated it because I love the Saw franchise.
But I will say that when I started it, I thought it would be easier to make an Oracle deck than a Tarot deck, because there's less work, less illustrations. I was way wrong. I was way wrong. But I did appreciate the challenge of making it more modern. And through that process, I learned that the more specific a card is, you don't necessarily risk it not applying to the person who drew it. You give them something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how I felt is a drawback when you read some of the like bitty tarot descriptions of some of the Rider Waite cards. It's like it's listing 48 things on this one card, hoping one of them is right.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's better to just list one thing, and if it's right, fine. If it's wrong, you're still going to be thinking about why that's wrong.
But you also have to understand, like you were saying, like with the bitty tarot, because it's talking about specifically, in most cases, specifically the Rider Waite symbolism. There's a lot of spiritual iconography in there. So that's why, like, all of those things could potentially mean insert thing here.
Right.
Because they are very intentional about the energies that are in that card. So, and again, like, that's where, like, the intuitive aspects of divination comes into play. Because, like, there are some decks that I like the artwork of, but they are too objectively simple for me to pull anything from. Like, I don't understand how anyone could, like, learn to read from these decks because they are so simple. Like, for example, there are, like, there's so many pip decks with the minors. So, like, pip decks, if any of you are familiar with playing cards, like the suits, they're generally, they would be considered like pip cards, basically. And, like, for example, I was so disappointed when I saw the Penny Dreadful Tarot, because I love this series. I've watched it at least, like, 6 times now. But when I actually saw they published a deck, I was very, very disappointed with the minors, because they basically just added one of the other, like, just added one of the suits and just built off that. Like, they didn't really do, like, individual nuanced artwork that was themed to the show like they did with the major arcana.
So I am probably gonna make my Tarocchi Gialli deck also into just a regular playing card deck, because I really like the little illustrations I did for the suits, and I thought they'd make cute pips.
They would.
Yeah.
The eyeball.
Well, do Shanice and Jonathan, do you have any questions?
I like the news thing before, like how like the different clients you kind of go towards different cards, and like as time's gone on, kind of like more along the lines of focus on like unscripted release for whatever and what comes in. But do you have like specific decks for people? Like I feel like as a reader sometimes like there's certain people like their energy calls for this one deck. So I usually got a go-to deck depending on who the person is, what's going on in that situation.
That's true. So I lately have been reading with the Illuminated Tarot a lot by Caitlin Keegan, and I specify that because there's like I think like 1 or 2 other decks that are called the Illuminated Tarot. So specifically by Caitlin Keegan, and that one is a playing card style deck. That one's very interesting in that it combines and condenses the major and minor arcana cards into a 52 card playing card deck. So like the Sun is like also combined with the 9 of Wands, which would be clubs. So like it has a traditional playing card pips. It has a traditional playing card suits, but it still has the iconography of the tarot suits that they're associated with. And the illustrations are like they're very like children's books, so cute. And they're fairly legible, especially like again, I do a lot of market, so like having some that have like really like intricate text and line work, just like not so much. And I initially was just reading with the majors for that deck because that's what was recommended to me by some really hoity-toity woman that I did a test read for ages ago. Oh my gosh, like she's known me anyway. I could have a whole podcast about that. And then, so I was originally reading with the majors for that one before I just wrote the entire deck. The Angel Tarot, that was like my working deck for the past year, like about a decade, so like literally 2 months ago. And this Oracle deck, the Working Girls Oracle, that was like co-created by Lori Barrico, who runs the Mystical Moon metaphysical shop over in Fort Myers, Florida. And that one is a career focused oracle deck, and it's definitely called me out. I also call it the practical magic deck because it gives you practical advice, like work on your resume, networking, like it talks about passive and active income, but also there's literally get your shit together card. Like it says get your shit together, and I pulled it for myself and I'm like, I know. Or like go smudge yourself, and talking about smoke cleansing and stuff like that, and grounding. So it'll talk about the spiritual as well as the practical and how those combine. Because if you're not balanced, if you're like overworking yourself, clearly you're not maintaining balance in your spiritual life. If you're just too focused on the ether, then clearly you're not getting that bag, and you would probably benefit from reading Financial Sorcery by Jason Miller. I really enjoyed that book, just as an aside.
Well, I want to add to that. There was a wonderful creator who had on my podcast a few weeks ago, Marielle Smith. She has a book. It is a daily spread. I can't remember the exact titles, but it's 30 days of spreads for entrepreneurs.
Ooh.
And so each day it's a challenge of a different spread that helps you think about your business and where your business is going. I thought it was a really beautiful product.
Ooh, I'd love me some of that. Because I do a lot of like networking events, like not working them, but I would like to. But not yet. I actually recently did one with like creative loafing. But I've just been going to more and more like entrepreneurial, like small business, person to person events, and I do enjoy incorporating the business and the spiritual, and like helping people find that balance and like integrate. And like I always say when I'm not reading people, I'm reading books. So I usually have a notepad, at my table, and like give them like a laundry list of like books and like YouTube videos to reference. Like, here, this sounds like what's going on in your situation that we saw in the cards. You would totally like benefit from like a Safrel and Dr. Romney. Here you go. I'm not a licensed therapist, but here are some resources from some cool licensed therapists that I really dig that you might too.
I like that you give them homework after the reading.
Oh, please, yes. Yes.
It really shows that you're interested in their development and their progress.
I just want everyone to
hopefully
be
they
great.
come back and tell you about it and pay for another reading.
Yeah, I'm very thankful that I met this one woman through this event, Black Girls in the Woods, and it's exactly what it sounds like. There's a bunch of black girls in the woods, and they're doing yoga and stuff, and like she's had me on her podcast. She's read with me. She's referred me to her sister. I'm her esoteric advisor. She comes and reads with me every quarter. So yes, I love it too. It's wonderful. So I'm hoping for more of that, because I just want to provide meaningful insights and resources for people. That's all I want to do.
Other questions?
Your journey through publishing Oracle was
Okay.
I know that's good.
No, that's fine. So, played a lot of board games and had a friend named Summer who I would play board games with her like twice a week. And one day she showed me her tarot collection, and I was like, oh, there's more than just one? And I was like making a lot of art locally and stuff. And then this was like right when the pandemic hit. And I was like, I know there's going to be people who squander this time. I want to make sure I don't do that. So I said 78 original illustrations would be a great challenge. And I ended up finishing that probably in maybe 3 months. And I was like, that was so much fun. I worked so much faster than I thought I would. And so like I put it up on Kickstarter, and it did really well. I think it was probably made like $7,000 with that first one. And before that, I had done a few other Kickstarters for like enamel pins, coloring books, nothing big, just small things. I knew eventually I wanted to do like big board games on Kickstarter. And I figured a tarot deck would be a great practice of like finding a Chinese manufacturer, trying the different papers, seeing what all this shipping and stuff is going to be about. And so that first one was like a learning process for me, but I enjoyed it so much. I'm like, that's it. I'm a tarot creator now. who does board games on the side. And so that was the first one, and I learned so much from that. Like, first off, nudity is illegal in China, so you are going to have struggle getting like shipping companies to ship it back to you. And I learned about like all the terminology, like everything's in millimeters there as far as cards and stuff, so you can't use inches. I learned that like even though I'm going to put like text over the card, I still need to have the illustration behind the card, because when I go to do prints and stuff without that or resize things, I'm like, well, shit, now I got to draw in all those parts I didn't draw when I did the reprint. I learned about the more things you offer on the Kickstarter, it's great that people want to buy prints and stuff, but then you have to deal with all these different SKUs and different size boxes for the different size prints. And then like a print in a box with a tarot deck is going to be swinging around a lot. So anyways, it's just that one project taught me so much about fulfillment and keeping things simple, and like just because you can sell something doesn't mean it's going to be beneficial to the overall project. Then I did the Gory Oracle deck as like a complete opposite project from the erotic tarot deck I did. And then I just keep making decks since then because I just enjoy it so much. But I guess that's quickly my journey with that.
Yeah.
Any specific questions about any of it?
Yeah, I want to follow up something about before we've been saying how there's a lot of redundancy in certain cards, certain suits, and certain things like that. How much, as the person putting the new art into the cards, do you feel like you're like creating on your own, or maybe giving off course as to what the traditional right away might seem like? Do you find yourself having to do that more, especially with like the minor icons and things like that?
As far as sticking with tradition goes, I think it really depends on, and this is something we kind of touched on earlier, it really depends on the intent of the deck. Like, if it is a deck that's like an art piece, a collector's item, might or might not be actually used for readings, like Tarocchi Gialli, I don't think it has to be that skewed that closely to the original. But if it is a deck that you want to be used a lot, like with my erotic tarot deck or the Tarot by the Neon Light, it helps to keep it simple, easy to understand, and clearly defined. It kind of like, I appreciate that with the one we're doing now together, Bianca and I, the whole thing feels like a thematic art piece from start to finish. And if someone uses it, great. If they do, they're probably not going to use like the manual as written. They probably already have their own understanding of what the cards mean. And they're probably just curious to see how we're reinterpreting those meanings. I don't know if that answered the question.
Well, I've talked to you a little bit, but I also wanted to know in your journey to like
About 13 years.
13 years.
Yeah.
What was the most like? I mean, I'm sure you've had plenty of experiences as well as a seasoned reader, but like, what is it that you are looking forward to, like, in your journey as, you know, having all this experience? What do you want to do? Because there's such a vast amount of things that you already do, but like something.
Well, it seems like everyone's launching a course nowadays, but I do finally want to teach. A lot of people have been asking me if I do, or, you know, whenever I do explain tarot to them and like just take the time to explain my tarot, or just even like other practices, just things that I'm knowledgeable about, because I just, again, when I'm not reading people, I'm reading books. I've found a very specific, relatively useless knowledge. People feel like they've come away with something generally. And I do finally feel comfortable with the idea of teaching, so I would like to develop a course, series of courses, like going into the tarot and how to read them, and just things like that, 102, 104, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I just want to see the people that believe in me believe in themselves and thrive. Like, I want to be able to say, like, hey, I have made a difference, and the people that I've read for lives. You know, it doesn't really matter. I mean, like, I'm not gonna jinx myself because it's gonna be like broadcast out there. I'm not gonna say like, oh, I don't care about the money. I love money. I am manifesting money. I have a sigil chilling in my necklace right now about manifesting more money. So like I would love to receive more clientele. Absolutely. Please and thank you. Peace and carrots. Dragon Ball Super reference. But I really, really just want to know that the people that have come to me, that continue to come to me, that they are making moves to better themselves as well as their community. Because even outside of this, I always encourage people to get involved in their communities with like nonprofits and things like that. Because I feel like with maybe not now, like a lot of groups are trying to force people to practice specific religions here in the United States. But as a result, there have been so many people who've become disillusioned with faith as a whole. And I hope that I'm able to guide people to find something that they believe in, to develop their own belief systems, and to actually just like dive into that again. I think that's why a lot of times readers will encounter people, particularly on the hotlines. They're trying to get that like cheap, like 30 cent a minute fix of like feeling like they've done something, or like just wanting that reassurance, like that yes or no reassurance, or wanting to know like when they should do a thing. They want to feel like they know everything about a situation before they do anything. And I want to encourage people to be active participants in their lives. Like on my website, I say, like my tagline is "Create Your Fate," because I want to encourage people to actively participate in the future that they want to see for themselves, rather than just being like, "Oh, what do the cards say for me, Magic Lady?"
That's beautiful. I have one last question for you. When you go to metaphysical themed events, or if you go to metaphysical themed events, do you have what do you do to try and stand out from other readers that are around you?
Bitch, I'm black.
Oh, there you go. I guess that was a dumb question.
But no, really, I just, stand up. I sometimes wear my hair out, because I'm already tall, relatively straight size, and have big round hair. Like that's part of what inspired my business name, the Obsidian Corona. So let me just segue into that a little bit. So obsidian, right? Really calming grounding stone, generally black.
Oh my god, I just made that reference.
Oh,
I didn't.
Right. So people would often say, like when I first started reading for them, that I had like a grounding, calming presence with them. So then I'm just like, okay, obsidian, boom. And then what's really wild is that the word corona came to me like September 2019. It was but I only had positive associations with the word because I did art classes, and if you look at religious art, how it kind of looks like sunbeams coming out, like that's not a halo, that's a corona. A lot of people don't realize that. I mean, like it's like echoing the rings around the sun, which is also called the corona. Like if you look at the Corona beer, and you notice they'll like hold like the bottle up to the sky, and like you'll just see the corona of light like around the piece of wine. Like that's so obsidian corona, corona, crown chakra, and then of course like literally my round ass afro. So there's layers to the name, but yeah, I just show up. I'm very into fashion. I also did like retail merchandising. That's what I went to school for. So like color theory is, a lot of people on TikTok now are like talking about it in relation to like makeup and like mixing pigments. But I often think about Okay, so like a daytime or nighttime event. And I'll try to wear like solid colors or like blocks of colors. Like I like to wear like dresses and like skirts. So it's like, okay, oh, like if I'm like away from my table for a second, oh yeah, it's like the tall black lady who, and it's just like and she's wearing like a green dress and you see like a pillar of green, like, oh yeah, there she is. Like that's like just visually that helps me stand out. My market setup is like so divorced from my website because it's like black and gold and stuff like that, like black and white and gold. But going like retail brain, I have like generally a very colorful like tapestry, like stoner shop tapestry tablecloth. It's like it has like glow in the dark paint on it. So like if I were to like put a black light, it would also like glow. I have crystal balls and like a crystal skull, so that being in Florida, whenever the Florida sun decides to attack, it'll draw the light. Lately, it's been drawing more children, which also helps because candy houses, they don't really do that well here in Florida. But they're like, ooh, shiny, what's this? What are you doing? Oh, I'm doing tarot. What's that? Do you know like psychics? No. And usually that's when I know that their parents are like really Christian and they probably would teach them to hate me. Yeah, small town living, yes. But like colors, having things at different levels. Like I have like this huge woodcut sign that my boyfriend gives to me. It says "The witch is in," but it's like neon and like legible from far away. So they're like witch. Sometimes I have my witch's broom that has like neon green tassels. I love neon green. It's just like, hey, look at my broom. Just have things that draw people from like far away and encourage them to inspect and explore and see like, how is this? Who is that? And then, like once I'm there, I like to do dramatic eyeliner if it's not like too hot in Florida outside. And I'll like do like, interesting eyeliner and stuff like that because I'm like making eye contact with people. All of that.
I've done one metaphysical event. It was Spirit Fest in St. Petersburg, which
I've
been
been wanting to do that.
They tour all over the place. I didn't know what to expect. It was way less witchy, way more metaphysical than I expected.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a lot of old white people in sandals.
And why am I saying girly? Why am I girling you? I'm sorry.
But like, I was surprised that I was the only tarot creator there.
I'm not.
Which I'm not complaining because I made a lot of money at it.
Yeah.
Because like people wanted to meet someone who makes tarot. There was like one place that had other tarot decks, and it was like, we're a storefront, and like, here's all the Llewellyn stuff we brought.
Yeah.
And so it made it very easy to stand out in that regard. So I need to do more metaphysical events because I didn't realize how it's...
Because I feel like so many metaphysical events, like specifically like those kinds of expos and stuff like that, it's mostly like people who are like into like Starseed, Pleiadian, Indigo
like people
children.
who are like one step away from swinging.
Wait, swinging?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like fisticuffs swinging?
No. I feel like
or like sex.
Like I feel like a bus came down from that town in Florida where all the old people have sex with each other. What's it?
Oh, the Villages.
The Villages. Bus came down from the Villages.
Oh.
And they're like, let's get some crystals to put under a mattress tonight. I don't know.
Really?
It was a weird vibe in there.
Yeah.
Although a crystal pineapple would sell well.
Oh my god. Yes. Someone needs to do that, you guys. Crystal pineapple.
That's a great name for a bar, actually.
Yeah, you're so right.
Yes, and have like an ice like pineapple, like how they have like the ice slide like shot thingies.
Oh yeah.
Just like have it with like a pineapple juice cocktail. Put some rose petals in it.
Is there any other questions?
Questions?
I think my last one would be if you guys have like without having to worry about like copyrights or anything like that, like your chance to make one ideal deck, like what would that theme be, or would there be anything specific, like what would you pull from in order to create your most perfect deck if everything was available?
Well, you go first because you haven't made any.
Gosh. That is a very difficult question because I love art, period. Which is why I was so excited when I first met him at like the St. Pete Punk Rock Fleet. Like I was like, ooh, art and tarot? Yes. So oh gosh, that is such a hard question. I don't know.
I can go if you want some time
Please,
to think about it.
please go. I don't have an answer. I really don't have an answer.
So I've already kind of made the one that I really wanted, which was the erotic tarot deck. But there's one that I'm really excited about that my wife and I are going to start working on soon. We're planning on having it on Kickstarter during the month of November. She and I both are obsessed with all the new Hallmark Christmas movies that come out every year.
No.
So we're going to be making...
That's diabolical.
Yeah. So we're going to be making a very cheesy...
with the scarves
Christmas
and the red
themed,
dress.
Christmas themed Rider Waite tarot deck.
No.
She's going to write little poems for each card for the manual.
Oh my god.
Like very cheesy rhyming poems.
I love like limericks and like greeting card stuff.
Yeah, like limericks probably.
Oh my
kind
god,
of a
I
thing.
love limericks.
And so we're starting that soon because we always want to have at least 80% of anything done before it goes up on Kickstarter.
Ooh, that might need to be a Christmas present to myself.
And I think like that November time of year, people can be excited to back stuff that's Christmassy. And then like I'll say probably delivery for next year's Christmas, but we'll probably have it to them within 4 months. But like the art style, I'm gonna try and do it, kind of make it look like it's a woodcut, like an old woodcut style. But like, because I don't want it to be too modern and hallmarky, but at least it's still kind of it represents our communal love for garbage Hallmark movies.
Yes.
So
it's so beautiful, heteronormative. Yes. Small
and
town living.
Like I know I should put like Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and stuff in there, but I'm like, this isn't about Christianity. It's about the Americana of Christmas. So I don't know.
Yeah.
And like I want to do like instead of wands, it'll be candy canes. Come on.
Yeah.
No, wands will be candles. Sorry.
Yeah.
Candy canes will be clubs.
Yes.
Yeah. Ornaments for skull.
And then pentacles, jingle bells.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's like I don't have to get really deep and like hurt my brain working on this thing, but it's just going to be fun. It'll be a fun project.
I love that. Yeah, I don't know because like with me, I'm so interested in learning about like just like esotericism and the occult in general. I mean, like maybe something because again, I went to school for like retail merchandising. I'm a fashion geek. Like I would grow up watching fashion shows. I missed on that work so much. I think about it and I get sad. My heart aches. I love fashion. So maybe something that has to do with like fashion. I don't know, like one of the like instead of the hangman, have it be like a dress form or something.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, like something like tied to like fashion history, fashion.
Can I suggest a theme for you that kind of relates to some of the things you were saying earlier?
Oh, please.
What about an oracle deck where each card is an herb? So it
What exists though?
Does it?
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
I'm
a lot.
Oh, all right. Well, okay. Take it back.
Because we were talking about herbalism earlier, and
Yeah.
I'm into like magical as well as medicinal herbalism.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's like was it like the herb crafters tarot? Yeah, so there's like a couple of like tarot decks. There's a couple of oracle decks. Like, I actually have one. It's like a botanical oracle or something like that.
So can you do readings with this one, or is it just kind of like flashcards and information?
I mean, yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, like they're more so for like reference books. But I mean, like I think that plants like those would be good for like seeing what you may need to pay attention to for your body, or like divination, like what kind of herbal remedies you might need to make in the near future, because you need to like start prepping tinctures with like this herb now because there might be like an influx of like insert kind of sickness here, or you may be like traveling to a certain region where there's like not a lot of sunlight. So then like, something that's like vitamin C rich.
Well, I like the idea too that if you did a spread and like 3 herbs came out, those could then equal some other card that you have to pull out of the deck because it like has the 3 effects that are represented by this one. I don't know, some type of like almost game mechanic for it could be fun.
Yeah, there actually is a board game that I just saw an ad for, and it's like inspired by the Regency era because of Bridgerton, and but like it has to do with plants. Like it has to do with flowers, like developing like a garden or something. Like I've been getting ads for it.
I know there's a board game where you're like a Victorian plant collectors, and you have to travel the world looking for the different plants. Maybe that's.
I don't know. Like
I bought that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I wouldn't blame you. I mean, Victorian plant dramas.
Well, my wife and I have been playtesting a game that we made together about propagating houseplants.
Yes, and I saw it and I was like, oh my god, my mom loves it. She's a total plant lady. Like
awesome.
She has like just vines, like just pots of like leaves because like she loves plants that have like the big leaves like the monstera and stuff like that because you don't have to wait for them to like bloom to appreciate them. Like they're like pretty all year round. So she loves plants with these. So when I saw you posting those, I was like, my mom needs this.
Well, like because like the marketer in me, I'm wondering how I can reuse those illustrations I've done of all the plants. I'm like, well, can I turn this into a deck? Maybe, just like a house plant deck. Maybe not. I don't know. I got the art.
You'll figure it out, and people will buy it. Like I've like there's this throw blanket that I saw, like a giant monstera leaf. It's like this nice fluffy throw.
That's cool.
And then I saw this other blanket recently. It was like a knitted blanket, and it's like green, and then like the edges they're like flowers, and you roll it up, and it looks like a bouquet.
Aww.
And I'm just like, I need it. Yes, it's so gorgeous, so gorgeous.
All right, well, I think we've kind of fallen off the topic of this, but well, if people want to follow you, what's the best way that they can find your stuff?
If you want to follow me, you can reach me at theobsidiancorona.com. I do have a live chat feature on the website. It goes straight to my phone, so you can like text it, give me your info, and then I'll respond back in real time if I can. I'm also on Instagram at theobsidiancorona, Facebook at theobsidiancorona13, TikTok barely, but I'm there. It's at theobsidiancorona13 as well. I'm available I do like generally half-hour and hour sessions. I'm available for private parties, and again, I mentioned earlier I'm a wedding minister, and I also offer custom vow services. So kind of like marital spell crafting. So if you're not the best with your words, I can do a little word witching for you, and that's what I do.
Awesome. And if anyone wants to, if anyone finds themselves in Lakeland or wants to come to Lakeland, they should visit Calypso Isles on Massachusetts Avenue. And what's the website? Shop Calypso Isles on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, yeah. Awesome. All right, well, thank you all so much. Art for Profit's Sake is recorded through Riverside FM, distributed through Spotify for podcasters, and edited on Adobe Audition. The music is provided by Old Romans. If you learned anything useful or found this podcast helpful, please rate and review us 5 stars. If you want to learn more about me or my art, head over to chainassembly.com.
Are you ready to paint your own canvas in the real estate world as a homeowner? It's Leslie Haas from Realty One Group Sunshine, and I'm here to talk home equity, your masterpiece in the housing market. Imagine owning a piece of property that's not just a place to call yours, but also an investment opportunity. It's time to take that brush and start creating equity in your dream home. With interest rates on the verge of dropping, get ahead of the curve and secure your artistic haven before the next rush. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or upgrading your studio, let's sketch out your home ownership dreams together. To learn more, visit tampabayhomesforsale.realestate.